Section 10. 45.
Before the explosion of the first atomic bomb, the scientist who created it must have been confused. The common understanding of a scientist's duties includes neither an obligation to consider the actual or prospective consequences of one's scientific findings, nor a duty to warn the public. But nevertheless, the scientist should not follow the same understanding as regards the development of nuclear power. For there is no one other than him or her who can know the destructive consequences of it. This reasoning is simple and straightforward, and I think it can be regarded as a basic pattern for deriving duties and responsibilities of the scientist. The reasoning assumes a value judgment that we should try to avoid grave harm to mankind, and anyone should be able to agree on this. And I wish to emphasize that the duties and responsibilities derived are closely connected with the scientist's role as a scientist, as a specialist of knowledge in a specific field. If we change the phrase, the scientist's role as a scientist, to other phrases, such as the carpenter's role as a building constructor, or the physician's role as a medical specialist, the same reasoning can be applied. Thus, it should be used as a basis for professional ethics.
46.
The purpose of ethics is to define a person's proper values and interests and the actions which he should take in regard to those interests. If an individual has no interests, no values with which to concern himself, then any discussion regarding ethics becomes as useless as contemplation of how many angels will fit on the head of a pin. To begin this exploration, we first need to ask, what are values? A value is something for which a person is willing to take some action in order to obtain and/or to keep that something, whether that something is a physical object such as a house or a non-physical existent such as love. It is important to emphasize here that some action is involved. This serves conceptually to distinguish between values and desires, wants or wishes. I may want or desire a $1 million home, but unless I am willing to take some action to try to obtain it, it is not a value. Values presuppose someone who values and acts. But should this acting person be the one to benefit from what he does? And what are these values for? One popular answer to these questions comes from the proponents of altruism. Altruism is the doctrine which states that only an action taken for others' benefit is the good, that is, constitutes proper behavior. According to altruism, anything done for oneself has no moral sanction. Any hint of selfish benefit received by the acting person is immoral by this credo.
47.
Imagine you are driving your car. You come to a fork in the road and turn right. Next, you come to a crossroads and turn left. There is no traffic to speak of, and there are no roadblocks. You seem to be completely free. This view of your situation might change dramatically, however, if we consider that the reason you turned right and then left is because you're addicted to smoking, and you're desperate to get to the nearest store to buy more cigarettes. Rather than driving, it's like you are being driven, as your urge to smoke causes you uncontrollably to turn the wheel, first in one direction and then the other. Moreover, you know that your turning left at the crossroads means you'll be late for an important appointment, but you do it anyway. This story presents us with two contrasting ways of thinking about liberty. On the one hand, liberty is the absence of external restraints or obstacles. You are free if no one is stopping you from doing whatever it is you want to do. In the above story, you appear, in this sense, to be free. On the other hand, one can think of liberty as the presence of control on the part of the person. To be free, you must be self-determined, which is to say that you must be able to control your own destiny in your own interests. In the above story, you appear in this sense to be unfree. You are not in control of your own destiny. That is to say, you are failing to control an addiction, which is preventing you from realizing your true interests. While in the first view, liberty is simply about how many doors are open, in the second view, it is more about going through the right doors for the right reasons.
(48)
Suppose a daughter from a religious family deceives her dying father by promising him that she will not marry someone from a different religion. By lying to her father, has she done something good or bad? Strict adherents of the Kantian view would first examine the daughter's motive for lying. They would find that she lied in order to reassure her dad and prevent him from suffering even more in his final hours on earth. She also lied to relieve herself of any guilt associated with the anger her father would have felt towards her had he known she was going to deny his final wish. Followers of Kant would be critical of the girl for lying. From their point of view, wanting to minimize suffering or guilt is not sufficient reason to lie. In other words, the daughter should tell the truth no matter what the consequences. It is a moral obligation to tell the truth, and that is the standard we must all uphold. The strict utilitarian, on the other hand, would first look at the results of the daughter's deceitful action. By promising not to marry a man from another religion, she has made her father happy so that he can now die in peace. At the same time, by lying, she has kept herself free of any feelings of guilt for having caused her dad additional suffering in his final days. Utilitarians would find no fault with this action since it leads to preventing the pain and anguish the dying father would have experienced from knowing the truth. To them, the daughter has brought the greatest amount of happiness to everyone involved, and that is a good thing.